Hello again, friends, and welcome back to another segment of Doc G's Wine and Spirits Review. As you can see, we've moved the operation indoors here a little bit for one reason only, to kind of get out of the heat that we've been dealing with lately. But I hope that you are enjoying some of this wonderful summer weather. It seemed like it took a while to get here, but it has finally arrived. So in today's segment, what I'd like to do with you is introduce to you, first of all, a new segment that I'd like to feature for you that will be a recurring theme once a month. And that would be the review of things that are new to my cellar, both wines and spirits that I add to my collection as others disappear and we add new ones. So tonight's feature is going to be the first one of those. And on a monthly basis, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less, I'll bring to you 3 or 4 wines a month, 2 or 3 spirits, depending on what it is that I pick up along the way, to share with you that are new in my cellar in hopes that you may go out and get them for yourself. So let me pour one of the wines that we're going to feature tonight. Give it a little swirl and say cheers and welcome. I've selected 3 wines that I have literally in the last week added, well, maybe a little in the last 2 weeks, added to my cellar. And they are wines that represent the spectrum of different grapes, different regions. Well, actually 2 of them are very close and one of them is not related geographically to the other one at all. So I'd like to start out with 3 new wines. Whenever I do this, I'll try to do a white, a rosé, and a red. Kind of got them out of order here. It may be all 3 white, it may be all 3 red, it may be a mix and match of all of that. Nevertheless, I'd like to start out tonight's review. We'll call it the new arrivals in Doc G's cellar. So the first new arrival, and this one literally arrived to me yesterday, is a wine that is one that I know I've never featured with you, one that's kind of hard to get, and it is a Greek wine called Assyrtiko. And again, as I always do, I'll post some information for you. It is purely a grape you'll find in Greece. It is actually the signature white wine of Greece. The one that I'm going to feature for you tonight is a 2021, and it comes from the winery called Domaine Papagiannakos, and that is in the Attica region, the Attica wine region of Greece, from over a 100-year-old estate. Just a little bit of a note, I've had Greek wines in my collection, both red and white, even some dessert wines. They're a little bit hard to find in the United States, and I'll talk about that a little bit more at the end of the introduction of this Assyrtiko. But you can find them at Total Wine in Delaware. You can find them online, which is where I found this. And you can certainly find them at PA Wine and Spirits. You just are not going to find a huge selection of Greek wines here in the United States. They just do not, for whatever reason, Greece has not distributed wines far and wide in the United States. So this one, let me pour again. 2021 Domaine Papagiannakos Assyrtiko. Let's taste it a little bit. Very light nose. It would remind you of a little bit of the acidity of a Sauvignon Blanc, but it's not. Doesn't have the grassiness. It doesn't have the herbaceous notes. This is more citrusy, a little bit of lime. Nice finish. Just a hint of spice on the end, but definitely a citrus forward kind of wine. Wines that, for me, kind of fit right into my profile of great white wines. There's a nice balance between the acid and the fruit. It's a very, very good wine. As I usually do, I'd like to read from the back of the bottle because, as you know, you can learn a lot from the bottle. So, as I said, this is an over, just hit 100 years. This This wine comes since 1919. And it is Assyrtiko from the non-irrigated vineyards of Attica, a terroir well known for its unique microclimate. Delicately golden color, which I hope you can see. It's a little hard to see there, but you can see the reflection of it. It reminds me a little bit of a Chardonnay color. It has a very attractive nose with a perfect harmony of citrus with hints of wild orange, lime, and white blossom. Exuberant with vivid acidity and minerality. And I told you, whenever I read these, I go, well, they can say that, but does it meet those expectations? So let's find out. A couple of the things they mentioned I don't really get, but I can tell you there's a big lime finish, acid-wise and also flavor-wise. On the nose, you get a little bit of the white blossoms of certain flowers. So as you can see by my glass, this one you want to serve, their recommendation was to serve this one about 45 degrees, which is maybe 5 minutes out of the refrigerator. And I don't like that. I had this with some pork loin, and it was a fantastic pairing. It's probably a big enough wine that you want to have a little food with it. Doesn't have to be anything drastic. You could have some hummus and vegetables with it. You could have a nice salad with it. But I do recommend having some food with this particular wine. This is not my first Assyrtiko. It's the first time I'm talking to you about it. And I've had wines from Total Wine that are Assyrtikos. I have had one or two from PA Wine and Spirits. I just don't keep it around because it's very difficult to find. So when this offer popped up online, I decided to go ahead and grab it. A friend of mine and I split a case of this one. So it is a 13% alcohol by volume. I'm sure the residual sugar is very low. It's not sweet at all. It's not very powerful. It's a very, very delicate, great dinner kind of wine, and I highly recommend it. The foods that I'd pair it with are soft cheese, fish, shellfish, any white meat. I had a piece of pork with it. That's done in a porchetta style with fennel and black pepper. It was fantastic with it. We had some vegetables with it, salad with it, and it paired fantastically with all of those. So this one I got in particular, if you want to look up wineaccess.com, if I can find it, I'll probably post it from there. On a case, to get the discount, I got this for $17 a bottle. And to me, believe me, that was a fantastic deal. So that's our white wine that's new in Doc G's wine cellar. I'll post it for you. And the key is, if you want to go try some, just try some Assyrtiko. You can get some a little bit less expensive. And I don't consider 17 that expensive for a bottle of wine. Anything between 15 and 20 is a good price point for me. You may be a little bit different, but I'll leave that to you. So that is our first wine of the evening, new in Doc G's wine cellar, Domaine Papagiaconos 2021 Assyrtiko. And we'll give that a time out, and we'll move on to number 2. So the next wine that I'd like to feature for you is one that I ran across last summer, and as you can see obviously by the color of the bottle, it is a pink wine. It is a rosé. It's a little darker than most of the rosés that I get, and there's a good reason for that. But before we do that, let's pour a little bit so you can get a look at the color. Beautiful salmon kind of pink color to that. Nice light hints of strawberry and red fruit on the nose. Remember, rosés are red wines that are not left on their skins. So these are all red wine grapes, which I'll talk about in a minute. But let me take a sip of it first for you, and then we'll talk. Glad I ordered it again. So let me talk about this wine a little bit. This is the 2021 Domaine Mas Thérèse. And this estate was established a little over 100 years ago in 1908. And this wine is called, if you can see it closely on the bottle, a Bandol Rosé. And as you know, of wines from France, usually they're labeled by the region. And in particular, from the AOC, otherwise known as Appellation d'Origine Contrôlée, or as we call them in the United States, from a wine region called an AVA. We call them American Viticultural Area. So Bandol is where this wine came from. They call it Bandol, but it is, as most rosés, not all of them, but as most, it's a blend. So I'm going to talk to you in a minute about what this Bandol has in it. Bandol wines come from that southern region called Bandol, which, if you're familiar with southern French geography, is a smaller part of the region of Provence in the southern part of France towards Spain, down in the Mediterranean area of the country. Bandol also produces some very powerful red wines from the same grapes that I'm going to mention to you that are contained in this one. So the first one that is in this wine, well, it's a blend. Usually these Provence rosés are pretty much the same kind of blends, just different percentages and grapes from different areas. This wine has 40% Mourvèdre, 30% Grenache, 30% Cinsault. So that makes up your 100%. So it's a Mourvèdre forward wine, and Mourvèdre rosé alone is fantastic. So that gives it that darker color. It's not that pale pink that you see in a lot of the Provence rosés. This is a really good food rosé. This too is 13% alcohol by volume, and it is a you'll find different Bandol rosés as you do your search, but let me go to the bottle and we'll give you a little history on this one. Domaine Mas Thérèse Bandol. So this was founded in 1908 by Thérèse Gontelme. This family-owned estate is implanted in the small village of Sainte-Anne-du-Castellet at the very heart of the Bandol appellation. The tasting notes on this: very pale, smooth pink color, as we've talked about, almost a salmon-style color. Expressive nose, reminiscent of yellow flesh fruits like peaches and nectarines. Sometimes you have to let these warm up to get those hints. If you drink it too cold, you're just drinking cold. It's like water almost. You have to let them warm up a little bit. So sometimes I would caution against you drinking any wine too chilled, because the cold will tamp down a lot of the flavors. I have had even rosés that I let sit for a while, and I go back maybe 10 minutes later, and it has warmed up, and it turns into a magnificent aromatic experience. So don't be afraid to let your wine get a little bit, you don't want to get it warm, but if it gets lukewarm or warms up 5 degrees, that's okay. It says the mouthfeel is round and generous, so it's a little bit more of a full-bodied rosé, and that's what Bandol rosés are characteristic of, with flavors of cherries and exotic fruits, and a delicate, well-balanced wine between the minerality and the liveliness. Touché, mes amis. This is a fantastic example of rosé from the Bandol region. And trust me, there are hundreds. This is just one that I happen to have. I had it last year, and I have this vintage again because I liked it so much. Just in those 3 minutes, 2 minutes, whatever I was talking, you can see the glass is condensing a little bit, and the flavor profile is starting to come out. I'm actually getting a little bit of strawberry or rhubarby. It's very good, very, very good. This will be a great food wine. So I would tell you that the food pairings, what I would pair with this is some shrimp, definitely some grilled shrimp, nice Caesar salad with chicken. You could do pork with it. You could do other chicken dishes. You could do salty tapas. You could do a nice white pizza like that fungi pizza that we talked with you about a couple segments ago. And as I always say, I can't let a segment go by without saying this is good just in a glass. And that would be true. So, $15 a bottle, available at WTSO. Wine still sold out, WTSO.com. I'm just going to keep telling you about these places. Go check it out. You too can get wine from there. I had to have a minimum order of 4 bottles. I got them for less than $60. So I would just say, if you want to try a Bandol and you don't want to do the WTSO online thing, go to PA Wine and Spirits and look hard. You'll find a Bandol. It'll probably cost you $20. They're a little bit more expensive. Total Wine has them. They don't carry many because, again, they don't send many of them to the United States. But just one time, I hope you get the chance to try a fantastic Provençal Rosé from Bandol. Bonne chance with that, and let's move on to our final wine. So let's move our Rosé buddy aside, and now we're going to go to the most recent red wine that I purchased. This wine happens to be French as well, and I try to stock up on my red wines, believe it or not, as they're released in the summer. I really don't drink them a lot, although I did have this one. Had it with a great grilled filet mignon and some mushrooms. Sacre bleu. It was very good. So let me talk about this one. This is a 2019 Croix de Bonpas. That's the name of it, from the Bonpas winery in the south of France. This winery has been around for centuries, a long time. So you have to understand the wine history down here. This goes back to the times of the Romans in the southern Rhone. So this winery is known for its mastery with the Grenache grape, which is a fundamental base grape in any Côte du Rhône wine. Côte du Rhône means from the Rhone Valley, from the Rhone River that runs down the southeastern part of France, from the cities of Lyon and down to the Mediterranean. So you can see here, this one's been opened. I had this one a little while ago with some steak, and it's actually kept well in the fridge for a couple of days. So I'm going to let it air out a little bit here in the glass. This particular wine is a blend of Grenache, Syrah, Mourvèdre, and Carignan. I apologize, I do not have the percentages. It's really an immaterial point. Carignan is usually, so you can't call this one. Usually, just a quick primer on Rhone wine grapes, or Rhone reds. Rhone reds generally are a combination, at least the blends, and they're called GSMs, usually, which stands for Grenache, Syrah, and Mourvèdre. And those are the 3 primary red grapes that are in a GSM. They are also called CDRs, Côte du Rhône, and they're basically all of these grapes. There's demarcation between southern Rhône and northern Rhône. Northern Rhône more for their Syrah, in the south more for the Grenache and the Mourvèdre. This is a southern Rhône blend, a CDR. So when you go to the liquor store or the wine shop, wherever it is you go, and you look and you see Rhône, Rhône Village, Côte du Rhône, it's a blend. There's not just one grape in that bottle of wine. So particularly, this one is a southern Rhône, and it is one that I have had, not this version, but we've made some of our own. I talked to you about, we actually made our own Côte du Rhône style. They make them here in the United States. California is very famous for them. They just can't be called Côte du Rhône. They're called Rhône style. This wine, a big plum, berries. That's wine's like I just opened it. I opened that about a week ago. I just capped it and put it in my fridge. Most red wines will do that. Ooh, that's very good. So let me read to you a little bit about this wine, again, from the bottle. Very interesting bottle. They're very ornate. This is also the region that does Chateauneuf du Pape wines. It does great Syrahs. Does wines from Gigondas. Vaqueras. I'm going to have to do a spot on the whole Rhone Valley because, quick story, 2019, my wife and I spent 3 weeks in the city of Lyon, and we spent quite a bit of time traveling through these very wine valleys that I'm sharing with you in this wine. We may have actually passed this vineyard, who knows. So, let's talk about this one. This one, let me just talk about what it says about it. This wine boasts purplish red color, which you can see, and reveals an intense bouquet with aromas of black fruit and sweet spices. Pure and sophisticated on the palate, featuring complex flavors of spices, licorice, and notes of cocoa, rounded out with a long finish. So, let's find out. Definitely, I'm getting the cocoa. 7 days open. I can't believe this wine's still this good. I almost threw this away. Truth be told, sometimes if I let a red wine sit in the fridge too long, I just, how much is left? And pour it away. I'm glad I didn't do it with this one. Because this, actually, I think it's gotten better. It's very smooth. It doesn't have that big tannic. It's very spicy, very smooth, very fruity. You can smell a little bit of the vanilla, a little bit of the oak. The best part of this wine, $12 a bottle on Wine Access. And again, I'm not here to sell wines for Wine Access. I'm just telling you, you can go find yourself a nice Côte du Rhône. I don't care where it's from exactly, what winery. Most of them are fantastic. And you can really start at a price point between $12 and $15 and get yourself a red wine that tastes 3 times the value that you might have paid for it. Trust me, I would not lead you wrong. So, I don't know which wine to say goodbye with. So I'll say this. That'll be determined as soon as I say goodbye. Please, look forward to more of these spots where I will share with you, because trust me, I continue to buy wine because my friends and I continue to drink our wine. But the next time we do this, I think we're going to switch over to some spirits. I have some interesting new spirits for you that I'd like to share with you. So we'll probably do 2 spots like this a month. One on wine and one on spirits. So until then, I think I preferred this Domaine Papagiannakos the most. So it is with this wine that I will say, thank you for tuning in. We'll see you again next time. Stay safe and cheers.